Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Canton III, and we are starting our coverage of the Disney Plus series, Ironheart. Very excited to talk about this show, the first 3 episodes. And I'm also very excited to tell you about patreon.com/MCUniversityPod. We could get our bonus content, such as our subscriber mailbag, where I told some stories about being a mailman and the things that happen on my daily route and things along those lines, and some of my more funnier training stories. And we answered your lovely listener questions, which never disappoint at all. And we still have another Fantastic Four movie to do, and then we got one more Fantastic Four movie to do before the actual brand new MCU Fantastic Four. So looking forward to getting into all those things. And to get into that in our Discord with all of those things is $3. Appreciate everybody for listening and supporting. And if you're watching at this moment, please like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. And with that being said, let me introduce the super producer, Jake Christie. Jake, how are you? And you are muted.
I'm muted. God, really just a great thing to say after super producer that I'm muted. I'm doing well. I mean, I'm doing a little bit less well before I just completely ruined my intro. But yeah, honestly, I see no matter how good or bad it is, the best thing about a new MCU property is that's like we got new stuff to talk about.
Well, 1000%. That is so true. And as always, we leave the key under the mat and he returns to join us and bring us his pleasantries. Rod Morrow, aka the black guy who tips. Rod, how you doing, sir?
Great, man. Coming down off the high of seeing Megan 2.0. So I'm in a good place right now.
Awesome. Seems like a much better place than half the people who seem to have watched Ironheart, and or maybe like the 30% of people who decided to review bomb Ironheart. It just seems like a very interesting time when it comes to these specific shows. Jake, you feel like you had something on your tongue.
I think that it's really just like malpractice from these sites to allow reviews to come in before the show comes out. I think like they know that this is a problem. Like they know that they can do something about it. Like, and they clearly, like, I think that you mentioned in the context they see on Twitter when you're having a conversation about in the context of sports fans.
Yeah.
But like, I really feel like you said that these big companies have been doing malpractice when it comes to bad fans, quote unquote. And I call them fans feels wrong, but like there's so much they could do to stop this bullshit. Like there simply is no reason why you should be able to rate something on Rotten Tomatoes when it is not available for public consumption. Like they know that it's going to happen, and it's just like it's maddening. Like it feels like they are afraid that they'll lose the engagement if they don't do that, and they will. But it's like grow a pair. Like don't. And so it's crazy how you can just expect it like clockwork. The show's not out yet, but it's like 30% on Rotten Tomatoes because what? Oh, it's a person of color. Fuck off.
And I made this point before. I'll make it again. I think the release schedule is ridiculous. Doing the 3 episodes this week and 3 episodes next week and just getting the show out presents a message that is very loud and clear to everybody watching. Whether you like it, whether you don't, it presents the message. So I think this is just as much on the powers that be at Marvel Studios and Disney than you can make the argument with the fans and stuff like that being terrible. Sure, but the people up top, they are the decision makers and they are the ones who handle these things. But I want to really there's a lot of interesting parts about this show that I want to analyze. So Rod, I'm going to ask you first, just generally, what was your feel of watching these first 3 episodes from just a general standpoint, and then we could get in a little deeper.
It's in an interesting place because I think coming off of Daredevil, to me, Marvel street level in my brain, it just somehow went back to like R-rated, violent, like just bones breaking type of stuff. And then it took me back to almost like Kamala Khan's story, where all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, no, this is more PG-13ish. Like people are making more like kid-like decisions or decisions that are stories that would be for a child, not a child, but like a teenager, a tween, right, to like follow and be like, oh, this is a dilemma. Oh, this, that kind of stuff. Like we went from like Daredevil, Punisher, and Karen love triangle to like, is this boy cute? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just kind of hit different. So it took me a
Yeah.
second to jump back into that. And then the other thing I'd say too is it feels so black. And
Yes.
like I I know that was a conscientious decision, but like not educational black in the way like Luke Cage was. Whereas, meet me down at the Medgar Evers store building that's on James Baldwin Street.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like that. It's just like every line that is
Uh-huh.
written in like black Twitter almost. You know what I'm saying? Like instead of saying
Yeah.
okay, somebody would be like, okay. And it's like, oh, that's y'all made a choice to make these characters talk like this all the time. But I'm digging it. The only issue for
Yeah.
it is, and maybe y'all know behind the scenes, because I don't
What's
know
up?
all the behind the scenes. I don't follow that stuff. It feels slightly dated. Like not dated like, oh, this is like 90s slang in 2000. It feels like
Yeah.
this is 2022 slang in 2025. And so
Mm,
it's like
I like
I
that
can
take.
I can feel it in the wordplay and the stuff they're saying. Like, oh man, that was cool. Like, man, y'all just missed cool.
It's funny that you say that. Before I throw it to Jake, I mean, ironically, yeah, what you said is exactly what happened because
Mm.
I'm guessing because of the Bob Iger coming back and wanting to change the way that Marvel Studios releases content. This show, I feel like, got caught between that mandate because this show was shot and completed like mid 2023. So like by the time mid
Oh.
2023 was
Yeah.
like it was basically
They
done.
went into this right after Wakanda Forever came out.
Right. So like it was like
Oh
as soon as
shit.
Wakanda Forever came out, you just started hearing this person was cast in Ironheart for this and that and that, and they went into that shoot like I would say like early 2023 to mid 2023. That thing was done. So then you just started hearing, oh, when is this going to come out? People were wondering, oh, is it coming out before Agatha comes out? No,
Oh
Agatha comes
shit.
out before. So like this has been a very long process. So to your exact point, that is exactly why
And
it
when
Yeah.
you do
seems like that.
something with this level of young, cool, hip, it being slightly off does it, you can
Mm-hmm.
tell, as
Yeah.
opposed to like if it was, I don't know, if it wasn't as young and cool, I feel like I
Yeah.
wouldn't even be able to tell it all. I'd be like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is just characters talking. But once you start referencing stuff, whereas damn Daniel, and I'm like, damn Daniel. Hmm.
I mean, we got to go home, Roger, like from
Yeah.
Sister Sister. So yeah, like I think it's such a great point that you make, and I think that's the other thing that will not be discussed about when this
Right.
show is talked about, and which is another reason why, again, I blame the powers that be for a lot of the stuff
Damn.
that goes on with this show because you just put it in a terrible spot, to be quite honest. But I want to continue this, Jake. Let me know what you generally thought of the proceedings thus far.
I enjoyed it, especially as episode 2 and 3 rolled around. I thought the first episode was a bit. It didn't really have a super like. It took a while for it to get to what it was about, because
Mhm.
they had spent so much time setting up where the character is and giving her like a whole thing of going back to Chicago. But I really like the thing I like about it is that like it is a show about a distinct point in time in people's lives. It's not a show about a high schooler. It's not a show about a college student. It's a show about the moment of like, what am I doing with my life? Like that's really what she's that she's in a place where she can't, like she keeps saying like, I'm going to build this because it's going to be important because I can, but it's like, girl, you're an adult now. Like that's in the past. You can't do that anymore. At some point, you eventually have to do stuff. And like, how do you reconcile your aspirations that don't pay the bills with the bills that
Yeah.
need to get paid? And now, obviously, she doesn't really have bills per se, like normal, because she lives with her mom. But she has bills to pay for her suit, and so I think that like it's not like a metaphor ever, but I do think that's it's a relatable storyline of being like having to make decisions and compromises to that you didn't have to previously, because the whole thing is like she starts in a situation where she doesn't have to make those compromises. She's getting a free ride at MIT to do all this stuff, and now that she doesn't have that, she wants to still do it. And so I really like that aspect of the character. I think that there's some interesting stuff going on with the AI. with
Yes.
Natalie that like I hope that they explore. The biggest thing I'm worried about, and this is just me, like this is a feeling I've
Mhm.
had basically through the whole show, is like if they don't really go deep with the AI stuff, then I feel I'll be like pretty mad. Because I think that like at the moment they're just taking it as face value, like isn't it so nice that you can talk to her friend again? And I'm like, if they don't explore the dark side of that, I'm gonna be pretty pissed. Because like if they act like that's an unambiguous good, I'm gonna be mad. But I think that they're setting up some interesting stuff there. I think that chemistry is really good between her,
Yeah.
Dominique Thorne, and Lyric Ross. Um, and then I don't know. I've the thing I find most impressed with, honestly, is, and we'll talk about him obviously. Is I think that Alden Ehrenreich really is redeeming himself in
Oh,
the Disney property. I think he is so good in this. I
yeah.
think that he's like really like, oh, you're bad at being Han Solo because you don't have a Han Solo vibe at all. I mean, he's also fine at Han Solo, but it's like, no, you're a sweet boy. Like that, you're a sweet, innocent guy. That's your vibe, and he does that so well.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. We'll definitely talk
Yeah.
about him soon enough, and the AI point I think is a very fascinating one. And but I loved what you said about characterizing Riri, and I think what is so interesting in reading reactions and talking about, well, this character, why would this person do this? Tony Stark wouldn't do this, and I think what is so interesting about Riri Williams is in the way that she's introduced in Wakanda Forever. And quite frankly, which I don't know if it's a disservice to the public by the way that they put this in, but I was, and we talked about it. So if you're a fan and if you're kind of like a newbie, go back to our What If final season review. The episode that had Riri Williams featured in it, I thought was one of the strongest character displays and character write ups that I've seen in any Marvel property to this point because of how they showed, no matter, because as the watcher is talking about her in every single timeline, she has the same exact personality, same exact
Mm-hmm.
audacity to believe that I can solve anything. And I use people to help, but more so as a means to an end than actually having relationships with people. And
Mm-hmm.
that is something that plays out so interesting in this show, as a lot of her friendships and a lot of the things that happen are kind of more so like, I need this so I can get to this
Mm-hmm.
next point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is something that when you think about geniuses and how they're kind of like very one track mind even for so many things that they can do, it presents such an interesting character flaw for her, because the means to an end thing leads to her joining up with Parker Robbins' gang and doing some bad stuff. So you get into a morally gray area where she's kind of, yeah, he's suspect, but I need to do this so I can build my suit and I want to do something iconic and stuff like that. And what's funny is I love that the MIT person sees right through her and says
Yeah.
that's a bunch of garbage,
That
Yeah.
was
and it
so
I
doesn't.
like that a
cool.
lot. Because I thought
Yeah,
if, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I would feel like if they accepted I want to do something iconic and don't make me feel small, if that was enough, that would feel like really like we're woke and progressive bullshit. It's like, because that's
yes.
is bullshit. Like that's just like that's not a, you're fucking making, you're using a lot of money, you're committing crime. Like you need to have a better thing than I want to be iconic. Like that is like just not an explanation.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think because of some of the trauma that it seems like she's trying to avoid, and which gets brought back up with Natalie coming in full form as AI, it presents this new problem for her as she is trying to juggle her emotions and keep them down as opposed to really facing them, and it gets her into trouble in all these different ways in the first three episodes of the series. So everything that she's doing affects all of her relationships. I mean, even something as small as the relationship that she has with Zeke. Like that is a very, their partnership and their chemistry is so much fun to watch, but also at the same time, even he's telling her like, are you going to use this technology just for this? You don't actually want to do something more substantial? And it's no, she has this one track mind, and how she gets from there to becoming an eventual hero and then at some point learning to work well with others, I
Mm-hmm.
think is a nice fascinating story track
Mm-hmm.
that you could have for her. So Rod, I'll ask you, like, just in terms of the character Riri Williams, what did you think of how they've portrayed her thus far to this point?
I like it so far. I think this is the challenge. Once again, I always bring this up. When you're introducing characters this far in and you've done so many characters, how do you thread the needle to find a different way to portray somebody? And so with Riri, what I like about her is she feels like a wild card and she feels like a not a hero yet.
Yeah,
And nothing they've really shown us before this has led us to be like she's a hero. Like they do the tag but in the opening of everything of Ironheart, but she's not Ironheart yet, right?
yeah,
And so I kind of like that she's a wild card. I like that her morality is gray-ish. Like we're rooting for her to see through the cynicism and actually be more of an altruist and really understand like Stark's like legacy. The other thing is she doesn't there what I think is very well done. She has a 1 million feet away view of Tony Stark, meaning
hmm
she didn't watch Iron Man 1 through 3. She doesn't know the human being that he is on any level. She just knows the Tony Stark on the cover of magazines, billionaire genius, and she's like, well, I also am a genius, and if I was a billionaire, I'd be Tony Stark, and she just happens to be right. Like, like I'm sure a lot of people think that shit. Just like I could have made it better than Jordan if my coach wouldn't have cut me or whatever. But like she the
yeah,
one more, yeah,
I would have gotten OJ if I was the prosecutor in that case. Sorry.
exactly. She the one person that actually is like, no, you would have did it, sis. You got the goods. And so I like that. I also think it's very interesting the timing of this being a couple years ago, because I think the sentiment of anti-billionaires and anti-rich people is hitting hard right now, but
yeah,
society may be hitting too hard right now. Meaning, like, there's a moment where a billionaire is killed here, and we're supposed to go, "Oh, they went too far. That was wrong." Meanwhile, we watched the CEO get shot from United Healthcare, and I watched the internet
yeah.
after that, and nobody thought it was too far. And so
Everyone was
I
celebrating.
wonder if 2.5 years ago, whatever, I wonder if it
Yeah,
just hits a little harder then to be like, damn, man, Buddy, you had to kill Buddy in his mansion. Now we're like, burn the mansion down. Like, so that's another thing. And her morality feeling like that's the point that went too far, kinda is a little bit like, I wonder if that'll connect with audiences like
yeah,
now the way that it
Yeah.
would have before, even though part of it is also like Rampage getting killed and all that shit too. It's not
right.
solely that, but
Yeah.
the point being like
Rest in peace,
that was
Rampage.
when he killed the billionaire. It was like she definitely like looked down at the camera like, what have I done? And I'm like,
Mhm.
you gotta do. And then the last thing is, I like she's flawed. She's very
Mhm.
flawed.
Yes.
Like they did not try to do the perfect minority. They did not fall into the tropes of the like. I actually hate fiction that does the thing where like we have to. It's like when you watch a Best Buy commercial and they always make like the black person the smartest person, and they make the white dude stupid. It's like, I don't know. That doesn't feel human either. If you walk up to me in a Best Buy, I actually don't know all the damn answers, and that's okay. And so it feels a little like that sometimes when you have characters that are like, I have to show up. I'm the black hero. That means I'm over prepared. I'm always right. My emotions never get out of control. I don't have no fucking panic attacks. Riri breaks down in the worst times where you're just like, hey,
Yeah,
get it together, sis. What are you doing? And makes like hard decisions to shut people out, very much like Tony Stark. And I like that about this character.
yeah,
And I think that I like that she's not like the reason I keep going back to her age is because like she doesn't feel like a person who is like unconcerned with her affecting other people. I think that like she really the way that I read what happens in episode 3 at the end is like and what happens as this goes on is like on a certain level it's not real to her because she's so single-minded about her pursuit, and it's like it's kind of all this stuff doesn't feel like there's like it doesn't feel like there are real stakes, because it's
yeah,
all in pursuit of this one thing. And like until she actually ends up basically killing someone, like I thought that the discourse like she wouldn't kill someone was stupid because it's like, yeah, if she were to kill someone and be like, hell yeah, that guy's dead, it's like, no, she was freaking out, had a panic attack over it. She's not like, she literally is in because I think that that's kind of like right, like there is what she seeks is impossible to attain without there being real stakes. And I think that she is in denial about that. I think that that Natalie and Gary's murders, I think that that put her basically into a state of denial about this. Like she thinks if she just puts her head down enough, like she's mad at the world for needing her to get money to pay for stuff. So she's like, no, if I just put my head down and work on this, I can become iconic, and there's no everything will be fine. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, like there are if you want to be iconic, you have to take the stakes. Like Tony Stark could not have been Tony Stark if he wasn't willing to put himself at risk. And I think that that's kind of like that. That's an interesting hero's journey to me, where it's like she thinks that she can avoid needing to engage in life or death stakes, but it's like you can't. You're not Tony Stark then, and I think that she's gonna get there. Like I like that she's not a hero when we start out, but you can see how she gets there because she's not a bad person. She's just clearly traumatized. And I like the detail of having that trauma not be like front and center every moment.
Yeah.
You know how like so many characters with trauma, it's like every single second, it's like, well, how does the fact that she has trauma affect this? It's like, no, most parts of the day she's fine, but she is like clearly because she thinks she's fine too. She thinks that she's over it, and she's
And
very much
when
not.
it hits, it feel like when the panic attacks hit, they feel like
Mhm.
panic attacks. And they're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
convenient, and they don't feel like plot devices. Like the way they write them,
Mhm.
they're very inconvenient.
Mhm.
Like they're at the part of the story where you're like, and then the hero overcomes the trauma, and then they get out the third act. It's like, no, she kind of folds into a ball, and it
Mhm.
really messes everything up for everyone. You're like, damn. So I like that, and like I said, it reminds me of Tony Stark, man.
Mhm.
And my love and great affection for Iron Man 3. Like it makes Iron Man 3 hit even harder to see Riri go
The
through
panic
the
attacks.
anxiety that Tony went through after
Put
going
the
through
spin
that
on it.
damn
Yeah.
portal, and seeing like how big and grave and the stakes of everything. And of course, what is his defense? Put a suit of armor around the world. She could not protect Natalie and Gary, and now she subconsciously has created this AI that she looks in the face that is just a living reminder constantly of survivor's guilt, and that she's trying to shut out, that she, and subconsciously on an even deeper level, she doesn't really want to shut her out. Like
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
could have been figured a way to shut this down, but like it's a visual representation of her making herself do the work through
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
figuring out how to live with this survivor's guilt. And these are such complicated but fun and interesting things to see a character experience on a street level. Like in a movie
Mhm.
fighting Thanos, you just don't have time
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
like minutia of it, of like, well, what does her mom think, or what, how's this affecting her at school? Whereas this is the perfect place to put that on display, because you can live in it and watch that it's not just a third act character growth situation where like, and now I
Mhm.
don't have PTSD, time to fight. Like, no, it's like this, it's ups and downs with it, and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have to say, Rod, you sound very fair and balanced and rational in making your opinions. But I do wonder if Roderick A. Smith were around,
Mm.
what would he actually think about? Because I mean, at this point, so we have a bunch of these heroes who have killed folks. Like we've had Cap kill a bunch of folks, Iron Man's killed a bunch of folks, but in specific, Riri Williams, in some ways, if you wanted to be devil's advocate, that was a pretty terrible thing she did at the end of episode 3, leaving that poor criminal to die. What would Roderick A. Smith think about this?
First of all, I want to thank both of y'all for having me back on the show.
Mhm.
Now you could have dressed a little nicer. Okay, you could have wore a tie or something like that, but it's okay. It's late at night. You know what I'm saying, on the East Coast, so I understand that. You worked a long day. And so you probably couldn't dress up for little on me, and that's fine. We casual today. Oh, but Riri Williams. This is this is my issue with Riri Williams. Okay. A lot of people are saying, Riri Williams, is she the face of the league? Is she the face of the next Young Avengers? Are they going to put the whole franchise on her back? Well, first of all, excuse me. Did anyone tell Steve Rogers? I don't know. Has anybody told Captain America? And no, I'm not talking about the new Captain America. I'm talking about America's ass Captain America. Because catching bodies is part of the job. You can't have PTSD. Okay, if you can walk, you can kill. And you need to get out there and get the killing. You caught one body and you already ready to quit, Riri? Really? Is this the person I want to see Tony Stark in the Iron Man suit to? Get out of here. Tony Stark killed more than that getting out the cave with a box of scraps. So what you gonna do when you see Thanos and them boys coming through, knocking down buildings? When you see the Black Order, you gonna be in the corner crying, looking at your AI, having PTSD and anxiety attacks, trying to 1, 2 breathe. Then none of us is gonna be breathing, waiting on Riri Williams to get to the building. And that's how I feel about that.
Well, I think that was thank you, Roderick A. Smith, once again for gracing us with your presence. Incredible take there. The first take of first.
I would
take,
say, matter of fact, put AC and Jake on the screen when I'm saying this, because I want to see their faces when I say this. I wouldn't put Riri Williams in the top 4 iron suit wearing people in the MCU. Yeah. Because she ain't no Tony Stark, God rest his soul. Okay? Because he was going to go out shooting in the fourth quarter. He's not going out on no panic attacks, laying down. Okay? I'm not even giving her over Don Cheadle or Terrence Howard. I'm not giving her either one of them slots. So right there, that's 3. You already down. Rescue, Gwyneth Paltrow. I'm giving her 4. Cause I like the cut of her jib. And then number 5, Bruce Banner in the Iron Man armor in Wakanda. So she not even top 5 armor wearers in the universe. And she got some nerve to call herself Ironheart. More like Iron No Heart. Because she's walking around empty inside with no vessel. Because if you had heart, you are laying people down on the ground immediately just to get on your application to the Avengers. She couldn't work at Waffle House right now with her body count. You couldn't even get dishes at Waffle House or be a waitress right now. So I'm just going to need her to step her game up. Now I'm trying to be fair to the young sister. I love what she's doing. Okay, there's no disrespect to her at all. Okay, I'm not saying she's a bad person, and I believe she could be that superstar. She got 3 more episodes to show us she got that dog in her and handle this dude in a magical cape. A magical cape. Okay, Doctor Strange actually know magic. He just got a cape. If you don't rip that cape off of that, come on, Riri. I'm back to you guys. I'm sorry. I'm disgusted.
I understand, Roderick A. Smith. Thank you once
stuff.
again. Yes, the hood. We'll get to his hood, because that hood is definitely from the hood. That much that much can be said regarding that. But
they gotta give us that hood origin story, because like, what do you get it from Goodwill? They just make it sound like he just picked it up off the street and was like, yeah, I got powers.
Jesus Christ! Oh my God!
He got it by Cabrini Green.
Oh man, but yeah, we gonna get to the hood later. Yes, I think, Jake, when you brought up earlier the AI portion of the Natalie character, I've been thinking about that a lot since I watched the first 3 episodes, and I think, one of the things that comes along, and we've always been having this discussion about AI for the last few years and how it's affected, jobs and people generally. Like, you read these stories about people like having their relationships messed up because of how Chat GPT has become their one and only. Like, literally.
Yeah.
You can't believe it, but it's happening. So you see, this is kind of like the first, like, thing visually on television. Like Black Mirror has done that to a degree, but I felt like in watching this and seeing how she interacts with Natalie, and to another extent, Riri's mom, and how she took to her and asked Riri, "Can you create one for Gary?" You see the allure and how it's so easy to get people caught up in that, and quite honestly, it's scary to think about. So that's why it's showing up in the show that way is interesting. And to your point, Jake, I would like to see this delved into a little bit further, because I think there is a lot of that you can explore with how this affects people, because you could see it affect Riri throughout this show, and I want to see it go further.
I think because there's a couple things. One, I hope that it's only been positive so far, so they can have a turn. Because I really don't want the conclusion to be you can bring back your dead loved ones with AI. Because the thing that's most interesting to me about it, and they slightly allude to it in the scene where they're by the water. But this is the thing that's most interesting to me about this, and this actually has really nothing to do with AI necessarily. It's just the way the vessel for it is that the AI of Natalie is from Riri's brain, and so even outside of AI, that's not Natalie, because it is only Natalie as Riri perceived her. It has none of the interiority of Natalie, right? It can't that in the same way that like she's talking about she has gaps, because she has gaps because any part of her memory that Riri wasn't present for or Riri didn't hear about, she couldn't know, right? And so like it's actually not Natalie at all. It's a reflection of how Riri perceived Natalie. And that I think is that's what makes it so dangerous. And that's the same thing with ChatGPT, that ChatGPT is designed to flatter you and to reflect what you're saying to it. And so like, of course this version of Natalie is going to make her feel at ease, make her feel comfortable, because she is the version of Natalie that she remembers. That she doesn't have any of the that this version of Natalie can't surprise her, because she's exactly what she remembers, in the same way that, and I think that like, I think it's interesting, like the ways that she pushes back are ways that like you might push back against yourself. Like she doesn't do anything that really Riri couldn't think. She doesn't have any thoughts that Riri couldn't think herself, because she's incapable of having more than that. And I think that's the thing I hope they explore, because that is what's most interesting to me. That like, once again, she is not Natalie at all. Like if I were to, I have a twin brother. He's the person I know best in the world, probably. But if I were to recreate him fully based on my life experiences, it's like, well, shit, I don't know the thing that goes on in his head. There are years where many years we've been separate. I don't know the ways he's changed. Like, he would not be a full person. He might trick me into thinking he is, because he's how I perceived him. But it's not Natalie, because the moments that they weren't together aren't there. And I think that's a really interesting thing. I hope they delve into it. And like I said, I think they're going to, because the thing with the gaps, I think that is what that's alluding to. That like, of course there are gaps. If Riri wasn't there, she doesn't know it.
Yeah. Rod, how have you seen this portion of it so
Almost
far?
exactly like Jake. It's a little creepy to me, because the AI thing, Hollywood is having like a crisis with the like AI propaganda versus people trying to warn us about AI. If there's one flaw in Megan, is that it's more ambiguous than the first one, which is like, hey, AI bad. We gotta fucking watch out. And so it feels like they're trying to narratively shift to like, no, AI can be good in the right circumstances. It can be your best friend. And I'm like, this don't seem like the right circumstances. And unless there's some full, and I love this for Lyric, the actress that's playing Natalie. I love it for her. I love that actress. And it does hit better than if you would have had some CGI version of that. It would not be the same. So like I do love it, but I love it more because it's a mental manifestation of her survivor's guilt and the PTSD she experiences, and it's triggering to her. And it will mean something if she can actually coexist with it on a level that isn't, you can coexist with AI, but no, you're
Right.
coexisting with the that you created this thing to soothe your brain for yourself. Like you did this. This isn't like, if this is a tool, which same as the Iron Man suit, you created this tool
Right.
to help yourself. I would like that realization to at least be had if they're gonna keep the actress playing Natalie in this form. I can't go with just AI good. Don't question it.
It's a way to bring back people who are. I mean, because especially I don't know if
Right.
you guys saw this week the thing where Alexis Ohanian, the founder of Reddit, was like, my mom died when I was young. We don't have a lot of videos, and so I
I
turned
saw
this
this.
still
Yeah.
photo. It's a still photo of them together, and he like used AI to make it into a video, and it's like, and he said like unironically, it's kind of like, no man, like that's
Right.
not like
Like you
that.
can't
I think the
be
thing,
Olympia's daddy acting like that, bro. You gotta
like the
wake
thing is,
up.
I'll be honest with you, this is nothing to do with the show, but I get really
Mhm.
frustrated now that like, when people are like, AI is bad because it uses a lot of water. It's like, no, if you eat beef, that uses way more water than AI. Or AI
Right.
is bad because it's like, no, no, no. AI is bad because it removes us from our humanity. Even if it was perfectly
Yes.
Mm.
carbon neutral, even if it wasn't
Yeah.
taking anyone's job, like I just find it so odd. Not even like, yeah, odd. Like I get mad, but it's like the things that AI is being used to replace are the things that make me feel most alive. Period. It's like if
Right.
not for like coming up with ideas, if not for
Yeah.
making friendships, then like all we have is like what like consuming. That's not we're not sea sponges. Like we're meant for more than that. And so it's like
And it's a grift. Like it's stealing people's
Yeah.
stuff. Like it's not
yeah,
really. It's actually not intelligent yet. Which
yeah,
is the thing
and
that
it
bothers me.
I don't think it can be
Yeah, me,
low
I
key.
agree, but the thing that bothers me the most is how much of it is about branding and these tech guys are
Mm-hmm.
using it. And now Hollywood is kind of soft peddling it to us and like,
Yeah.
no, this it helps this character and it's not scary, it's not dangerous, it's actually a good thing. And at that
Yeah.
same time, you know that these studios are trying to think of ways to use AI to get rid of people that work there and get rid of artists
Mm-hmm.
and get rid of
Yeah.
actors and
Mm-hmm.
bring back people like that
Yep.
have died for real and put them on your screen and be like, no, it's like James Earl Jones never left.
I mean, what if we found out that Timbaland was low key an executive producer of
I
the
was
show?
just about to say that.
Oh,
Bruh.
I
sorry, I
mean,
beat you to that.
no, it's fine.
And all the new
I
artists that
just
they were breaking were just AI.
Oh,
like,
man,
yeah.
Timbaland just I cannot believe that I just don't see how people don't see how that ends for like the joke I always make is like, and I've said a million times, it's like, guys, the end game of this is rap songs that are actually made by people who look like me. Like that's the
Yes,
end game.
exactly.
like I just don't understand how you don't see that. Like I don't even it's an issue beyond that. But like for pure brass tacks, like what are we talking
Right.
about?
Is this
Anyway,
like
Yeah.
this? It's like we're alive for what happened to jazz, but now we're doing it with hip hop. We're like, oh shit! So that's
Yeah.
how everybody in jazz became a white guy. It was just
yeah,
we kept
I mean,
fucking around.
yeah. At least Elvis could actually sing. Like if they were
Right.
just putting
That's what I'm
fucking
saying.
ones and
Like we are
zeros.
like we're this is how you know what it is? It's how DJing became like a white Swedish dude who's 47 and just has a
Mm-hmm.
playlist, as opposed to like
Mm-hmm.
DJing being like, oh, a dude that's spinning the ones and twos and learning back big breaks and all this
Yep.
stuff. Is like, no, now it's a guy who says, you know, I love you MLK on fucking Twitch, and you're like, that's not a DJ.
Classic. That's a classic moment though. That's one of
Yeah.
Oh man.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
But yeah, to close out on the point from my end, this Natalie thing has allowed Riri to disassociate
Yeah.
with
Yes.
like every relationship that she has, even to a lesser degree with the gang, as she's kind of apart from that whole situation. And I mean, I wouldn't say that they're the most well put together unit, but it seems like they interact with each other in a way that Riri doesn't, and you
I
could see how.
appreciate that gang because that gang is the meme of the amputee Muslim hijabi woman meme where it's like it's like that in gang form where it's like every single type of person, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's really like they're
Yeah.
checking every box, and I appreciate that. I'm like, because as you guys know, as people who follow me on Twitter or on Blue Sky know, I am an early investor. I'm on the ground floor of woke 2.0, so stuff like this is really important. That we're building woke back up, and this is like hell yeah, this is some real. This is also how you know it came out. It was done in 2023. That they're like tweeting to have
Yeah,
every
because they
every
don't.
gender,
Yeah.
every yeah. If it was done now, it'd be like
Great
all
point.
dudes named Chad.
Great point. Such a great point. Oh my god, timely for the time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if how and if they address this further, and if this is something that Riri doesn't need to use as a crutch by the time we get to the end of the series, and finding a way that it's done in a way that makes sense and not convenient, as Rod was talking about earlier. But before we get to said gang, I do want to talk about Zeke Stain and
Mm-hmm.
that relationship that him and Riri have, as kind of Riri rubs off on him a bit after their first meeting and whatnot. And I love how episode 2 ends with him getting tired of that lady bringing over her dog. to poop on his grass, and he said he had enough. He started cutting the flowers. Jake, I'll start with you on this. You mentioned at the top how you thought that this was a really great way to bring to have Alden come back and
Yeah.
be as good of an actor as he could be in a situation like this. What did you think of his character and also like his relationship with Riri and how that worked in the series?
I think it's a really nice unexpected twist when you hear of like a black market weapons dealer, like that he's the most like put upon suburban man, and he's just like lets life trample him, and he is, because I think that it's always when you have characters that are going to interact that are from like different worlds or like are not previously known, you want them to affect each other, and like obviously he's going to rub off in some way on Riri, both with the technology and with his whole ethics, whatever, but she's going to make him more bold, and he's someone who clearly like has so much capacity. Like he has all this shit, he's so clearly knowledgeable about it, and he all like, there's the whole thing of like, you people are defined by either repeating their parents or trying their best to be the opposite of their parents, right? And he's so clearly defined by not wanting to be his dad, to the point where it's like really crushing him. Like he basically doesn't know how to function like as a full human being, because he's so afraid of making mistakes. But he's also just like a really funny character because he's so like goofy, and
Yeah.
he's like a little puppy dog. Like you feel really bad for him. At least I do. I'm like, this poor guy. Like he doesn't know how to tell this woman don't poop on my lawn. Like I love the detail too where he has several live, laugh, love signs,
Yes.
which is great. But yeah, I think that he's it's a very fun character, and it's a very fun foil for Riri to have, because like while he is like an ethicist and is going to tell her to like do the right thing or whatever, it's not like he's also really lived life out. Like he's also really stunted in his growth. Like it feels like
Yeah.
he hasn't lived much of a life. They say he's 36, but like hasn't he really lived any life since he turned like 20? Like lives alone. He doesn't seem to have friends. Like what's his life like?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really interesting character and something that over these next 3 episodes, I do want to see what his end point is, because you wonder if something. It's easy for somebody like that to go the way of his dad, except
Mm-hmm.
it's in a different way because of his personality. Uh, Rod, what did you think about the character? Anything stand out to you? Anything that interested you?
Very funny, good way to get some humor into the show. Definitely thought I at first, as soon as they said Joe McGillicuddy was his name, I was like, okay, so what's a placeholder? What is his origin? And I liked that they didn't tease it out too long. Like it's
Yeah,
Obadiah Stane's kid, and it's like cool, that makes sense. And it also makes sense why he's limiting himself, right? He think he got that in him. Like the way that she had
yeah,
him touch that metal in the shop, and how she's like, look at it, it's hard, it's cold, I know you want to touch it, and it's like almost like a fiend or something, like being
yeah,
like he was like, I don't know, I might want to smoke up if I touch it, so it felt a little like they found a way to give him some secondary motivation, and I like that he, unlike a lot of these shorter Marvel series, he actually seems to have a bit of a character arc, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
just like a secondary character that's only exists to help the protagonist and really gets nothing out of it. He actually seems to be getting something out of uh being around Riri. And I love my favorite thing is when he shows up at her house and blackmails her. And
yes.
I love that moment because even Riri has to give him almost like a, okay, I see, game recognized, game, even though I'm mad at you for making me do this. Like, okay, I see you. And I kind of like that moment.
Yeah, each one teach one. There you go. I feel it was so funny watching Riri kind of be like, be like a little bit of a mentor to him
Yeah, and I was
in
waiting
its
for
own
it to
interesting
be
way.
honest, and it would have been cliche, but I was waiting for him to be like super bad guy. Like,
Yeah,
oh, come down my house, I'm blackmailing you, and she gets there and it's a trap. But she got there and it's like, can you help me? I cut my arm open, and I did some local anesthetic, but I was messing with this tech and I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh man, I like this guy. I hope they stay friends.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That would certainly be nice. Uh, let's talk about Parker Robbins, aka the Hood,
Mm.
and this and said gang. Jake, I'll ask you first. I don't think we've seen the entire repertoire of what the story is behind the Hood
No,
and how he got his powers and whatnot yet.
no, we
Um,
haven't. That's true. It might be something that interests you.
well, I feel like once again, next week might be a little bit of a celebratory episode. There will
Mhm.
be
Yeah,
perhaps
I might not even bring my mic. I might just be like, I'll just let you go. But anyway, continue.
yes, and I am looking forward to that. So but I gotta keep my
Yeah.
emotions down and keep my excitement for
Mhm.
next week. But I think it is a very I would say understated performance from Anthony in this so far. I haven't really seen the full entire gambit. He seems kind of there's a little too cool for school aspect to him, and then on top of that, there's also kind of where he kind of leans into the whole idea of when he talks to Riri and says like, "Hey man, we could just take shit. They don't
Mhm.
believe in us. They don't think
Yeah.
that we can handle anything." And it kind of appeals to her in that way. What have you thought about not only his portrayal, but
Mhm.
where this reflects on Riri and where this character can go?
First and foremost, Parker Robbins is the most white SEC quarterback name of all time. Like he should be he should be a 2-year starter for Mississippi State who then like has a car dealership. Like Parker Robbins Kia outside of Starkville absolutely is that but I think that
That's a good one.
I think I think it's to be seen because at the moment I think that a lot of the stuff he's doing is relying on like why is he doing this shit? Like obviously it's because of the M word, right? But like
Yeah,
is he telling him to rob tech people? Like what? Like because there it does. Originally I'm like okay, are they stealing stuff to like build a machine? That's always what it is. But it's like no, it just seems like they're extorting people. And like what
yeah.
is for what reason? Because like the crimes they're committing are very incongruous with the fact that he has a magic cloak and
Mhm.
is convening with the devil, right? Like I don't know, but I don't know the devil personally, right?
Hmm.
I don't live next to Art Briles, but I assume that if the devil would be convening with humans to get them to do bad things, it would be more than just like grand larceny. You know what I mean? Like so I'm wondering what is going on. I'm assuming there's something going on, but until I know what that is, a lot of his vibe doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think his true school for school vibe it doesn't it's hard for me to deal with that and also that he's convening with the devil. Like those two things don't actually match. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think the character's interesting. I don't love Anthony Ramos' performance. I think he's not this character should have gravitas, and I don't think Anthony Ramos has that. But that's just
Yes,
me,
I
maybe.
think. No, no, no. I think actually there are moments where he's trying to be like really serious, and it's almost like I don't know
What's up,
what it is.
Uznavi?
Like
Like that's what I'm. It doesn't feel like
yeah, like tonally, it doesn't jive. I think the character itself is actually interesting, but yeah, to your point, as far as the performance is concerned, I think there's a little bit more to be left there. Now, what you mentioned about like the heists and the things that they're trying to do, it is interesting that he keeps throwing out these contracts for people to sign, like just send over
Yeah,
your entire business and
yeah.
building to us and
Oh
whatnot.
wait, I'm an
I
idiot.
wonder if
It just until you said that, I take back everything I said. Obviously, he's making him sign contracts with the devil. I'm an idiot. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Sorry. Until you said it out loud, it didn't occur to me. I'm a fucking moron.
you are not a moron. It happens to everybody. But the reason why I said that is I think that's where you wonder what is the grand plan
Yeah.
of Mr. M at some point. That's as we're leading to that at some point. But at the end of episode 3, we get he's tormented by the death of his cousin, and then
Hmm.
also kind of finding out that Riri was involved. So now this puts him on a course opposite Riri, and that sets up the next 3 as a nice little tete-a-tete between the two of them. Rod, what do you think about everything that we just said about the Hood, and do you have any thoughts of your own to hit us with as far as the Hood is concerned as a villain, just as a character?
Yeah, he doesn't feel like a big bad. Um,
Yeah.
he feels more like a tool of an actual threat. And I think that hampers him as a character, as a presence on screen. But also, it's kind of a tough thing to portray as an actor. And I do think Anthony Ramos is doing a great job as an actor of being this guy who's like somewhat altruistic, somewhat of a good team player, does have people in his circle he cares about, clearly has some sort of motivation, about these billionaires that's beyond, like, there's whenever he has his personal grievance, that's when he loses sight of, like, this is the smart
Yeah.
right thing to do. And I mean, it's a trope or whatever, but 6 episodes and you're a bad guy. You're not gonna get the, you're not gonna get the deepest origin story here. But I think him feeling like a tool makes him feel like less of a threat. But what it does help is that it balances out Riri's kind of greatness, because his greatness of being a bad guy, I think, is more interesting when you put it up to Riri and go, what's really the difference? Like,
Yeah.
as long as it's a billionaire that, because this is where my favorite character trait in Riri comes from, which is this white privilege billionaire bullshit is the reason I'm not her. I'm not
Yes.
the biggest person and smartest person in the world, and is what that character truly believes. And it's being used in certain ways where she's like having either confirmation bias or like going against what she knows is right, because she does have that very realistic, perceived and realistic, it is real grievance of privilege. When she tells Joe, like you were born with the keys, like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's clearly being like, you're a white dude and you're like why are you even letting anything hold you back? She thinks if she was, like that, she would, whatever. And I think Anthony Ramos's character, the Hood, feels like him going, billionaires, right? They were just robbing billionaires. It is
Yeah.
enough for her. And so I'm glad that we're arriving to a point in the plot where they're going to have to hit loggerheads, because there is a difference between both of us. I actually am not down with this the way you are. I'm not, her whole thing is, I'm going to get the money to get out, whatever
Yeah.
that means. She's
Not a
not
thing
really
you can do.
altruistic. Say that
Yeah.
again. I'm sorry.
It's not a thing you can do. Sorry, you can.
Yeah.
Everyone always says I'm going to get enough money. You can't do it.
You never can.
Just two more and I'll be done.
And the thing I like about it is she's not altruistic, meaning it's not like
No,
I'm
she's
doing
not.
this so my mama can have an operation or whatever. Like it's not heroic for real. It's kind of selfish. I want my suit and I want to like have money, and I don't know why all these white people get money all the time and I don't have any. And I should not struggle in a world where these people are getting by with less than me as far as like skills and talent. And I like that as a motivation, but it just needs to go ahead and hit that loggerheads, because I want her to be a hero, and it can't really happen until she like has this confrontation with him ideologically. And then the last thing about that character, I really want to see some magic versus tech. Like, I really want to
so
see
do I.
magic versus tech in the fucking Marvel universe.
But the one thing I want to add to what you're talking about, which I think is a really great point about Riri, and I think what we're seeing in her arc is that, like, so many people who see themselves as good people convince themselves to do bad things because they're only doing it to bad people. And to start, they probably are. Like the female Elon Musk, who for some reason got them to make tunnels under Chicago. I bet Brandon Johnson has a low approval rating in that universe too. That I'm sure she's a bad person, yada yada yada. But like, I think I try to like remind people of. I think there's a very common thing, especially for young people, to believe, where it's just like, the moment you say it's okay to do bad things to bad people, your definition of bad people is going to expand until you are like, I guarantee you, if you were to ask her point blank 3 weeks earlier, would you let a guy, even if he was a criminal, suffocate to death in a room filling up with CO2? She would say no. But the moment you allow yourself to do bad things, and like, oh, it's just for this, like, you can't. She's making a deal with whatever herself. Like, the moment that you allow yourself to do bad things in the name of something good, in the name of like something for yourself, it's like there's no off switch there. And I think I think that she's realizing that. I think that will be too much for her. That I don't think that she's gonna. I think at this point she's like, no, it's not fine, right?
Right.
But obviously the Hood, he made the deal with the devil. He's does believe that. He's like, no, I can still be, that, like, I think also to some extent, like, if you're Robin Hood, it's different if you're robbing from the rich and giving to the poor than if you're like killing the rich and selling their soul to the devil. Like,
right.
And I think that like that matters, and I think it's a very juvenile view of the world to be like, oh, but these are just bad people and doing this stuff too. It's like, well, things have repercussions, and I mean, that we can go to morality or whatever. Like, you can only control what you do, and I think that that's how she becomes a hero, because she's like, wait, no, I'm not this guy.
And that's a necessary lesson because I just think because of her upbringing and where she comes from, like that mentality is something that persists. It honestly, in some ways, she kind of reminds me of Franklin Saint from Snowfall, like in the same kind of way where it starts off like, I believe I can be something. I'll do this to get there, and then it starts off like we just run this like a business. We start, we sell drugs, whatnot, and we're just gonna run it like a business. But then it ends up turning like somebody got to die here, somebody got to get stole on here. So and it just keeps gradually changing and changing and changing. And obviously, Riri will get to a point where that's not. She'll stop way short of there, but how she gets there and why she gets there. And I think the why is so
Mhm.
important with all of these characters, which I think is something that a lot of people who have reacted to the show has missed. If you look at the character and if you look at the motivations and the reasons why, this person is driven to be this on her own. So when you are not altruistic, when you and this brings me back to what I was saying earlier, when you're not altruistic, when you're trying to do things by yourself, when you think and you know everything. You think you know everything.
Mhm.
Nobody can tell you shit about shit. So when you're like that, guess what? You're gonna err a lot in
Yeah.
all of these things.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
gonna take for her to have a moment, whether it be someone or something, as we see this situation happen, which leads her to rethink her strategy as far as that's concerned. Because I could even go back to Wakanda Forever when she
Mhm.
initially meets Shuri
Yeah.
Mhm.
and well, who else was that?
Okoye.
Mhm.
Okoye. So like when she meets both of them there, she's willing to try and lie and fight her way out of that situation
Yeah.
Yeah.
before she ends up going with them.
She's
So
like
it's no
Doctor
different. Yeah,
Strange. She's like if Doctor Strange and Ant-Man were combined into one being. Like the hubris and the
great
ego of
comparison. Yeah.
Strange and all that. But the kind of like moral grayness of Ant-Man was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'll rob a bank. I'm not gonna kill nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm not trying to. Like, I do want the money, and why can't I have the money? I'm a special iconic person. I should have the. She's like a hair away from being a supervillain.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
I
yeah.
do think that there's a way that,
Hmm.
like I said, I think it's important that they deflate like the I'm gonna be an icon because that really does just feel like the most hollow. Like, yeah,
Very hollow.
you stand up for yourself, girl. You're gonna be an icon. Like that
Mhm.
feel and because I think that like that feels really disingenuous to me. It almost feels like, and I might be reading too much into this, but like
Hmm.
if she can become an icon, then she can be invincible, and she doesn't have to deal with the regular, everyday randomness and horrors of life of people getting shot in front of you, right? That like if you can just be great enough, then you can avoid the problems of the world, right?
Right.
That she feels like she wants to separate herself from the world by being
Yeah.
like, that she imagined. I think it's so great, Robert, what you said about Tony Stark being seeing him from a 1,000-foot view, where it's like
Yeah.
she thinks that Tony Stark is impervious because of how great he is, right? But
Yeah.
I think that's
Exactly.
so interesting too. To compare is that like she's losing like having a panic attack because of the way she has to get her hands dirty to accomplish what she wants. What
Right.
she's not thinking about is the fact that to accomplish what Tony Stark wanted, his hands had to get dirty too, but his hands were stretching thousands of feet across the globe.
Yep.
His privilege was not that no one had to get hurt. His privilege that he didn't have to do the hurting himself. That is the
Right.
privilege. And if you want to get anti-capitalist about it, every person with privilege, someone's getting
Yeah.
hurt, downstream.
Right.
And the privilege is not that people don't get hurt. The privilege is that you don't have to be aware of it, right? In the same way
Right.
that, like, Zeke Stain, like, I feel bad. I feel bad for him. I actually relate to him as a character, where it's the feeling of like I can't do. I don't think he's unaware of the fact that his life is really easy, but he's in a rut. I feel like that all the time,
Mhm.
and so like but I think that he also is dealing with that too. I think for him, he is haunted in a way that like I think he's interesting compared to Tony Stark because obviously Howard Stark was going to start the weapons company. That like he is deeply like paralyzed by the pain that his family name caused, right? Whereas Tony's like I'm going to turn it around. Zeke is like completely his life's in neutral because of it. He doesn't know how to do anything,
Right.
Yeah.
and I think that like what Tony eventually learned is like the only way to get around the fact that people getting hurt is you have to be affirmatively good. There is no way to live a just life if your morality is neutral. You have to actually actively be good in order to avoid a guilty conscience, right? Like if you just coast through life in neutral, life is on a hill. You're going to run over some people.
But
And
that's the
good is
thing,
always
right?
yeah.
Tony still had a guilty conscience and died a martyr for the world because he took on
Yeah.
the impossible responsibility of protecting the entire world. And
Yeah.
that's the part Riri can't be aware of because she's not going to MCU movies. She's
Exactly.
just seeing him on the cover of magazines and seeing people debate about whether he's on the right side of the like registration law and stuff. But it's just, and that's another element of the show that I just want to praise actually is this actually makes the MCU feel way more real than
Mhm.
if they had a cameo of like, oh, and
Yeah.
Hawkeye stopped by. This actually feels way more lived in. The idea that people in this universe have super weapons and do super crimes and super billionaires and high tech stuff, and that's not even on the radar of like the
Yeah.
Avengers because this
No.
world is the stakes have gotten that high, and that there are people that look at Tony Stark as an icon and think icon, i.e., protected, got it all together, everything I want to be, he is. I'm gonna be an icon, and the only thing stopping me is I'm not a rich white dude, and I think that's really important for the character because that kind of chip on your shoulder can make you think I'm doing good when all you're really doing is kind of carrying out grievance.
Yeah, and then once you start to see the area of your ways, as it seems like she has, what now that road to becoming that real like actual good person and doing things not just for means to an ends, but doing things because they're the right thing to do, that part of it for her is to me the most interesting part of what's left of the series beyond anything else. And I think sometimes sometimes people talk about quality of series and quality of episodes and things along those lines. To me, the thing that makes the MCU when it's at its best is when you have a character that interests you a lot and you want to see them succeed. You want to see them find a way to get through and get to that portion of their superhero life where they can be that and be comfortable being that. Like that, I think when we've seen everything that we've seen through phases 1 through 3 that made us feel so good about everything, and then some of the individual characters that we've seen in other phases, some of the newer ones that we wish would get more screen time. This is what we talk about when we want to see the newbies do different things and be in these types of positions, because if you want to build out a future of what this is and what you'd like it to be, then you need them to have these type of moments and these series. So that's why uh, a series can be okay, but if the character is strong, then it allows you like the grace to put them in other situations and have success. Like eventually, I'm sure they'll do with her and the Young Avengers, aka Champion. So that's what excites me about Riri Williams's growth in this series to this point. I want to ask you guys before we go, Rod. I'll start with you. What is one thing that you would like to see it to close out this series in the next 3 episodes? Whether it's a storyline that interests you the most, or is just the Riri character getting to where she needs to go, or just something that you want to see? Let me know.
If I pick one thing, I would say, will the gang be redeemed or are they bad guys? Because I've grown to care about these diverse little motherfuckers, and I don't want them to be bad. You know what I mean? Like I know they rob people and stuff, but it's all I have the same feelings that I
Yeah,
had in Ant-Man when T.I. and them was in the gang, and I was like, nah, guys, be part of the good team.
I
And it
agree with
felt
the gang.
good and it gave like the character some humanity and some relationships that weren't just solely for being a hero, but for like character building moments. And so I'd like to see if they keep these characters around and if they like maybe help Riri to take down the hood or something like that at the end, as opposed to just you know being so fuck. They're all selfish like Riri. They're all like I'm gonna get my money and I'm gonna do this, and it seems fun, but it doesn't seem heroic to me. It just seems more like a hustle.
Yes, and rest in peace, Rampage.
Yeah,
Also,
gone too
Jake.
soon, buddy.
What? Yeah, gone too soon.
Shout
Shout
out
out
to
to
Eric
Eric
Andre.
Andre.
I completely
Yeah.
forgot he was going to be in the show.
Dog, I love that dude. I love that dude. I was
Yeah.
when he was in the first episode, I was like, is he gonna be in all the episodes? I was like, no, he's not gonna get to be in all the episodes.
I guess I don't think you could have him because at a certain point, if he's on TV long enough, he needs to pull out his pants, and I don't think
yeah,
that
I gotta get that guy off the set as fast as possible.
God. I remember I watched his special "Legalize Everything" with my dad,
Yes, me
and
too.
it ends with him pulling out his dick.
Yes, dude.
And thankfully, thankfully, in case you need to know the origin of Jay Christie, thankfully I have a dad that found that very, very funny. Like that, he enjoyed that a lot. But yeah, that's my dad.
But how about
But no,
you,
the AI stuff is the stuff I'm most excited to see. I mean, because I know you're going to get the M word, so I'll let you handle that. But I think that like how they leave that, like how, because obviously she's going to have some AI integrated because Jarvis exists, you know. But like, how do they, you know, what is the resolution? How does she come to understand what her brain did? Because this is, I think we really need to touch on it. This is unconscious. She didn't intend on her AI to be Natalie, but it is, and clearly that means something. And she's not dealing with that. She is acting like it's out of her control, but she knows damn well that it was her brain that did that. And like, it's not an accident. I'm sorry, it is an accident, but like,
but it's not an accident. It better not be an accident to the writers of the show.
Yes,
you know what
exactly.
I'm saying? I don't want this shit to end like we just thought it would be cool. Like, no, that make a statement somewhere.
Yeah, no, that
yeah.
Because it's really thorny to make it that if you who would your AI subconsciously be? My best friend who I saw get shot in front of me. That is extremely complicated, and I need them to address that. Like, it can't just be, I miss her so much. It's like, no. It's more complicated than that.
Right.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more on that point.
AC?
Oh, well, listen, man. Next week's gonna be a party. Maybe there's gonna be a celebration. I may have to break out the detective gear once again.
No, it is. M's down.
You're too much. Mephisto, man. Like it's oh my god. I can't. I've been thinking about this since 2021.
It's crazy.
No, Rod, you don't get it though. This was a thing in our WandaVision episodes. He predicted that. He kept talking about, and it's been over for 4.5 years.
Yes,
4.5 years in making.
But it's also so crazy. This is the one he was in.
Yes,
because the other ones, I've listened to the show as well as been on it, and the other ones, like, it felt like you were pulling at strings that were there. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, it's Agatha, it's witchy powers, but like, it's, you know, it's not like you were inserting
and
him.
They
like,
mentioned them.
Yeah, you weren't just inserting him everywhere. It wasn't like Secret Invasion, and you're like, well, you think it's gonna like it? So it made sense. Then we get to this one, and it's like the one they filmed a couple years ago, apparently. And it's like, I'm gonna be honest, I was watching the first 2-3 episodes, and it never crossed my mind until the end of the third episode. I was like, this is the one? Huh. Okay. I mean, I guess it is interesting, magic versus tech, but it is, I would have lost every bet if you would have had odds on it in, like, what series is it in? I would have lost this bet.
The thing I'm most fascinated with, and AC, obviously let you talk about it from your perspective, I'm just absolutely waiting with so much anticipation of what choice Sacha Baron Cohen makes. Because he has a lot of, like, I have no idea what he's going to go with. Because he obviously, his whole thing, he does a bunch of things. Like, I am fascinated of how he's going to play Mephisto. Because I think that if there's a lot of, I hope he does something interesting. If it's just him having, like, a deep voice and I'm going to be pissed. Like, I need him to go, like, bug nuts.
And Mephisto as a character has been written so many different ways in different forms and, you know, shape shifting and all that stuff. So yeah, I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, I think just from a storytelling standpoint, in knowing the hood and wanting to know more about Parker and where that ends up going, like, how did he get to that point where this is the road that he went down? That part of it, and then when we get that intro, what is going to be because clearly it's a plan to do something. What does he want to do by having all these billionaires buildings in their companies? Seems like he up to something very devious and devilish. So with all that being said, I mean, to Jake's point, also, like, I want to see how Sasha plays it. I want to see what that looks like. Is it going to be whimsical? Is it going to be
Right.
serious? Is it going to be a little goofy? Like, if is it going to be a combination of all those things?
Yeah, me
And
too.
the presentation itself, like all of that all of that is very interesting. And then it just and honestly, like it allows my long national nightmare to be over.
Yeah,
And
it's I'm really happy for you.
Mhm.
that's the most important
And
thing
how
out
does
of anything else.
how does a tech person take down magic person?
Yeah.
Right,
I want to see that
pretty
shit.
clearly she
Mhm.
gonna need some assistance from somebody spooky.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So
I mean, the devil. I mean, I don't know. Technology taking on the devil. I mean, actually, there is an episode of Doctor Who where it's implied that the Doctor kills the devil, so it's not
Mhm.
unprecedented. But
Yeah, I mean they got Robot
but
Devil on Futurama.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, true point
yeah.
there. But yeah, so it's that from that part. Like I'm anticipating these next three and looking forward to how Riri's story plays out and how all of these things go. This was a fun conversation. I feel like that's the one thing that I love about doing this show is we can find all of the interesting ways that a series in the MCU can show us different things without going off the rails in some type of like
Oh man, I meant to
crazy
go off the
way.
rails. I forgot about that. This woke
Yeah.
DEI shit that they're shoving down our throats. I'm very upset about it. I'm gonna make a YouTube video with my face being like balled up and
Here's my
acting like I
evidence that
don't
Riri Williams
understand.
took someone a spot at MIT.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what's going on with this DEI? I do have some quick things to just I'm gonna rapid fire, okay?
Yeah,
I
go
love
ahead,
that they
please.
didn't so far, and they got 3 episodes to not do it. But I love that they didn't do the like, what about black on black crime with the drive-by or the crime in Chicago?
Yeah,
They just are like, tragic thing happened. Tragic things
yes,
happen. It's not really connected to any
right.
one racial impulse or whatever. That's not what this book's about. Let's move on. Uh, this is really challenging for the writers because unlike the comics, Tony can't be her mentor. And that
Yes,
had to like, so some of the stuff that people are probably like feeling like, oh man, Tony wouldn't have did that. Right. But she'll never know that Tony. In the comic books, Tony's like her AI. So
right,
like
exactly.
he's like a literal face in her, telling her what to do. I love that it happens in a black place, in a very diverse place, and yet none of the commentary is really about it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
one of the people on our team is non-binary and dresses like a drag queen. That's not what this show's about. There's no like message moment or whatever. When people get mad at each other, it doesn't become like, oh man, very special episode. And lastly, I don't think the cousin's dead. I think the cousin actually might be alive, man. I think when she left that skin graft or something, it just I wouldn't be surprised if they gave her a get out of jail free card on being a killer. Just because it's very hard for
mm.
people to do you're a hero at the end of the series, except for, when you let that one dude die. It's for a lot of people, they can't make the leap. So I wouldn't be surprised if they found some way for that guy to be alive. Weren't they in like a plant warehouse or something? Maybe he got some plant powers. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Where the CO2 came in after
Yeah, I
after
don't,
the
and that's
fire started.
completely off the dome. I actually don't know if that character is like, I didn't look up his name to be like, oh, did you know he plays the swamp monster or whatever? I don't know. That just feels like narratively they might want to not strap old girl with a murder to start off.
That's a tough situation, but also I think it presents the real reason why Parker then would be like, all right, Riri, you need to go.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
that's the
and one last
yeah.
thing I
What's
forgot
up?
to say: love the suit, love the not nanotech.
Oh my god, yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah,
not nanotech. Oh my god,
no
thank God.
nanotech. Great point.
Oh,
Love
Great
that
that's
point.
suit.
so,
Damn,
so
that shit
Ooh,
bad.
is that shit is so dope, bro. It gave me the old feelings.
God,
yeah.
nanotech's so bad.
When
It's
that
So
shit
bad.
man.
opened up and curled over her
Yes.
when she was having her panic attack, or when she was running out of air and then like flew away with her, I was like, God damn, that's the old school shit.
Yeah. That brought me back. I mean, it's so scary. It's so scary how like they've leaned into the nanotech for everything.
It's because
Um.
it's easier to do.
Yeah.
It's not easier to do. It's because it's easier to do in post. Like that's the thing, because you
Yes.
don't need to do as much on the set. And Robert Downey Jr. never has to wear half a suit, and it's annoying. But god damn
Yep.
it, man!
Yes.
I swear to
Yes.
God, if
So
the Doom mask is nanotech, I won't do anything, but I'll be mad.
Ah!
I won't be. I won't be
What
happy.
pisses
I was
you
gonna
off
say
more?
I'm not gonna walk into the theater.
What pisses you off more? This or the NBA draft guys wearing the hat of the team that drafted them, but not the team they're going to? Which one is it?
The latter. I think that's really stupid because the NFL figured it out. Like we all
Right.
know that there's gonna be a trade. It just like I hate when we have to all agree on a lie about something. It's like
Yes.
we know we're all watching television. We know it's not 1970. Like these trades aren't being on over the phone. We got it.
Right. They should give everybody
Yeah.
NBA hats or sports. Like what was,
Yeah.
who was that?
The
That
Rob
was
Lowe
it
hat.
Rob?
Rob
Yeah,
Lowe
they
or
should
the
give
NBA.
everybody the Rob Lowe
Just NBA hat. That's a great
basketball.
idea.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yes, we are all looking forward to continuing Ironheart next week. And we're not that far from Fantastic Four, believe it or not.
Fantastic Four.
We're not that far from Superman,
Mhm.
buddy. We are in for a
Hey, eyes
month.
up here.
On Super. Oh man, I can't wait. It's so funny, folks. Apparently, some media folks saw a screening yesterday
Mm.
and couldn't wait to put on their letterbox and just say, "I can't tell you what I saw." But buddy, I can't wait to tell you what I saw.
Ah, put it in my
That's the type of
veins.
time a lot of these folks is on.
You know what that is? It's fish grease. It's fish grease.
Yes. Yes, the excitement is building. So around here, we're gonna have a lot of fun over the next few weeks, diving into all of these properties. So stay tuned and stay locked in. Want to thank Rod for joining us once again, sir. Appreciate you as always, brother. Where can we find you, my friend?
The Black Guy Who Tips is where you can find me. And if you like my movie, TV opinions, the Black Guy Who Tips Spoiled Movie Reviews is where we do our movie reviews. And we're constantly seeing stuff. And so we got a lot of stuff on there right now that you can check out that's in the theaters.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Jake, where can we find you, my friend?
You can follow me on Twitter at the Jake Christie, on Blue Sky at Jake Christie, and on TikTok doing the Museum of Twitter every day. I think, sometime on July 7th will be my 365th episode. So my
Wow.
1 year anniversary. And then only 2.5 more years after that, because I promised I'd get to 1,000. Which when I say promise, I mean I promised myself, and that's you. That's you need to keep yourself accountable. So
Yes.
very excited. Got some fun stuff coming up. Got it's just a little tease for the next Saturday is next Saturday. There's a specific tweet because Saturdays are sports tweet Saturday. There's a famous tweet from a Pittsburgh Pirate about an event that happens in Pittsburgh every July 4th that I'm going to be covering that people requested a lot. So I'm excited for that one. There's a little tease.
Oh,
tease.
okay. A nice little tease there. And yes, make sure you check out the Museum of Twitter on TikTok and wherever you can find it, because it's all over YouTube and
It
Patreon.
is as well. Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
I got a picture on for that as well.
Yes, make sure you check those things out. You can find me on Twitter at AnthonyCanton_3. Follow the show on all platforms at MC University Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Patreon, all of the 9 yards and things that we do. Thank you for listening and supporting. As always, for Rod and Jake, I am Anthony Canton III. This has been Marvel Cinematic University. We will talk to you next time.